I know all the Rotary, but I think it was just to.
I got it.
It's a different state. I don't know what, we're gonna be.
Yeah, they're
Very good. Margaret, you serve that?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate that because I was confused. I followed it as far as I thought I could otherwise. Surprise! Thank you for actually paying attention and reacting. That made me feel good. So appreciate that. The team just keeps getting stronger.
Well,
Hey, how are you?
well, the district's not.
We got plenty of time.
Public hearings. We've gone through all of these. This is first time. I don't know. The city has its own. Training. Well, the district still has its organizing. But that is just,
I saw you wrote a letter today that didn't have an issue.
and I felt,
No, he said you wrote a letter to the editor.
so
They
they
say, have you seen it? Just send us an email from you. You'll get it when you get home. No, it just happens like 5 minutes. Which is good. I don't know those big ones. Man, you must have time. Yeah, that makes sense. I was looking at first once it's fast.
So there's a long,
Most of my friends were in jail right now.
so if you're
26.
By the way, I work for Supervisor Arenas. Oh, hi.
Just move them there. Yeah, more forms.
What about that sign there in the forms?
We'll move it all and then we'll add more forms here.
There's some forms here too. Here's some extra ones. You want more? You got it. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we'll do that.
Maybe you can add more forms there.
Okay.
Nice to meet you both.
All right, so good afternoon, everybody. We're ready to call to order this regular meeting of Santa Clara LAFCO. It's 1:16 p.m. on Wednesday, April 3rd, 2024. Santa Clara LAFCO strongly denounces hate speech and does not tolerate disruptive behavior in our meetings. LAFCO prides itself on the rich diversity of our residents. We are committed to creating a culture of belonging where members of our diverse community feel included, safe, and respected. The board meeting is considered a limited public forum, which means that the board can regulate the time, place, and manner of speech to prevent our meetings from being disrupted. This protects the rights of other speakers and ensures that the board can accomplish its business in a reasonably efficient manner. Speaker comments must be limited to the agenda item being considered by the board. This meeting is being held in person at 70 West Heading Street, San Jose. As a courtesy and technology permitting, members of the public may also attend by virtual teleconference. However, LAFCO cannot guarantee that the public's access to teleconferencing technology will be uninterrupted, and technical difficulties may occur from time to time. Unless required by the Brown Act, the meeting will continue despite technical difficulties for participants using the teleconferencing option. Members of the public and chambers who wish to address the commission on an item should complete a request to speak form and place it in the designated tray in front of the dais. Individual speakers will be called to speak in turn. Speakers are requested to limit their comment to 3 minutes. Members of the public who are attending the meeting by virtual teleconference and wish to address the commission should use the raise hand feature. Those participating by phone should dial *9. Staff will call on you by name or by the last 4 digits of the phone number and unmute each speaker in turn at the appropriate time. Written public comments will be distributed to the commission and will be posted to the online agenda but will not be read out loud. So we're ready to move on to agenda item number 1, which is roll call. And LAFCO clerk, if you can please administer the roll call.
Okay. Chairperson Melton,
Present.
Vice Chairperson Arenas, Commissioner Bell, Commissioner Kame, Commissioner Kishimoto, Commissioner Lee,
Present.
Commissioner Trumbo,
Present.
Alternate Commissioner Candelas, Alternate Commissioner Chapman, Alternate Commissioner Chavez, Alternate Commissioner O'Neill, Alternate Commissioner Turner.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum.
Okay, very good. We have a quorum. Next up, we're going to move on to agenda item 2. This is public comments. This is the time for any member of the public to address the commission on matters not on the agenda, provided that the matter is within the commission's subject matter jurisdiction. Speakers in chambers will be called first, followed by speakers participating virtually. Each speaker will have 3 minutes. As a reminder for those in chambers, if you wish to address the commission on this item, please fill out a request to speak form and place it in the tray. I have so far 3 requests to speak forms that we will take in order. Our first member of the public to speak on public comment is Serena Alvarez. Recording Secretary, can I have 3 minutes, please?
Yes.
Serena, welcome to Santa Clara LAFCO.
Thank you so much. My name is Serena Alvarez. I'm so pleased to address you today. Some of you I'm very familiar with and know my family, and others of you I've never met before, and I'm so glad to have this opportunity to address you, and I really want to get to know you as well as I know others of you. I'm the Executive Director of the Salvador E. Alvarez Institute for Nonviolence, and I'm also the co-chair for the California LULAC Legislative Committee and our Health Committee. I'm here to address you on behalf of our State Director of California LULAC and our National Vice President for the Far West, because we are really appreciative of your work and looking forward to working with you on an exception to the water and housing policy. I know our county is moving forward on an agricultural farm worker housing project, and we really hope that LAFCO will be a partner with us in addressing the need of clean water for our agricultural workers. As you may know or may not know, California LULAC is a volunteer-based organization, and in California we've been around since 1933. We're a significant voice for the Latino community across the state, and with support of our national partners, We want to do whatever we can to make it possible for you to take action on this item, to bring it forth, and we want to work with you very closely. With my Institute for Nonviolence hat on, we're a local, state, and national leader on consensus building in policies that go across jurisdictions and require systems change. And we support that in an interest-based negotiation manner. So with those hats on, I really want to open our door to work with you and be partners truly in making a difference. I have confidence that the agricultural stakeholders in our community and our county are also committed to doing this. And we have no intention of having any bad assumption about anyone. We want to come to this as problem solvers and be partners with all of you. So again, Serena Alvarez, and I look forward to spending more time working with you on a policy. Thank you.
Serena, please don't go. I'll just mention one thing. You know, we're not really allowed to engage in a dialogue
Absolutely.
during public comment, but I have a request, which is if you could provide your contact information to our
Absolutely.
professional staff, I'd like to follow up with you offline separately.
really
Thank you so
appreciate that.
much.
I will. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay, our next public speaker is Jeremy Barus, and then that individual is followed by Tatiana Villasenor. Hi, Jeremy. Welcome.
Hi, good afternoon, Chairperson Melton, Vice Chair Arenas, and members of the Commission. My name is Jeremy Barus, and I am the Director of Policy and Organizing with Amigos de Guadalupe Center for Justice and Empowerment. Our farm workers in Santa Clara County are an essential part of our food system. They grow and pick the very food that ultimately ends up on our kitchen table. And they've had to experience living in unsafe and substandard housing throughout Santa Clara County due to barriers to developing farm worker housing. Therefore, I'm urging LAFCO Commission to prioritize farm workers and to work quickly to partner with the county on solutions to allow clean drinking water services to be possible for agricultural worker housing. Policies that prioritize farm worker housing will ensure that we are looking out for the best interests of all of our county residents, and we aren't leaving anyone behind. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Barus, I'll offer you the same invitation if you can provide your contact information.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Okay, our final in-person request to speak form is from Tatiana Villasenor. Welcome to LAFCO.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Tatiana Villasenor Carrillo, and I am a community organizer for the Latina Coalition of Silicon Valley. The issues of agricultural worker housing is critical, particularly in the region like Santa Clara County, where policies present significant challenges. Supervisor Arenas' leadership in addressing this issue and advocating for the development of agricultural worker housing is commendable. It's essential to prioritize the well-being and living conditions of those who contribute so much to our communities through their hard work in agriculture. Access to safe and affordable housing is a fundamental right, and it's vital to continue pushing for policies that support this. I strongly support Santa Clara County's agricultural worker housing work plan, which aims to address the housing crisis for agricultural workers comprehensively. LAFCO must prioritize this issue and collaborate swiftly with the county to enable access to clean drinking water services for campesino housing. While Santa Clara County and the Open Space Authority have integrated policies to include agricultural worker housing in the agricultural sustainability farm workers, LAFCO's lack of action in aligning its policies is concerning and must be addressed promptly. I also want to address to you all, I am the daughter of a campesino. My dad was a migrant worker well before UFW's the work that they did in addressing the needs for our farm workers. And I think that we live in such a progressive and liberal state. It's important that we're carrying that sentiment, not just for us who are citizens. Many folks are working under the table, they are struggling, and us being able to provide safe, sustainable housing is one less trauma that are oftentimes broken immigration system, the workforce that they're providing. It's time that we stand up for our farm workers. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Villasenor, I'll just offer you the same invitation that I did if you'll send your contact info to professional staff. I appreciate that. Thank you for your public comment. Thank you. Those were the 3 in-person request to speak forms that I had. I'm going to turn my attention to the recording secretary next to see if we have any public comment on Zoom.
Yes, there are 4 speakers on this item. And the first speaker is Info SV at home is their information. You have 3 minutes to speak, and I will unmute you.
Great, thank you very much. My name is Matthew Reed. I'm the Director of Policy at Silicon Valley at Home. We are a housing and affordable housing advocacy organization that works in jurisdictions throughout the county, including unincorporated Santa Clara County. We believe that a shared commitment to homes that people can afford, that are safe, decent, dependable, is the route to a more equitable Silicon Valley and Santa Clara County. We're here today along with other speakers that have come before us to acknowledge the importance of agricultural worker housing in the county. We've been a strong supporter of the work that has been done at the Board of Supervisors and have been pleased to see the coming together of the Santa Clara County's agricultural worker housing plan. And I think what we've seen is that a coordinated dedication and commitment from open space advocates to local government to county government is really paving the way to a cooperative and coordinated response to the need for more agricultural worker housing in Santa Clara County. So I'm here to ask this body, LAFCO, to commit to being a part of this effort and to prioritize this collaboration by making sure that this is part of the work plan of the staff. And we understand that this has yet to happen, and so we're here to ask you please to join in the process of creating a more responsive county. And thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is Jaria Jog. And you have 3 minutes to speak, and I'm unmuting you right now. Please accept the unmute.
Hello, Chairperson Melton and Vice Chair Ardanis and members of the Commission. My name is Jariah Haug. I'm the Associate Director of Care Policy at Working Partnerships USA. Working Partnerships USA is proud to support the Santa Clara County's agricultural worker housing work plan, and we look forward to seeing our county take necessary steps to creating housing opportunities for workers in the agricultural industry throughout our county. Santa Clara County is geographically diverse, and recognizing that certain industries are more prevalent in certain areas also means that it is imperative that we are looking out for the needs of workers in all industries, including those working in agriculture. Our housing crisis has made a ripple effect into all facets of our community. Having a county initiative geared towards supporting agricultural workers in accessing safe, stable, affordable housing is a key example of the broad array of solutions needed to alleviate our housing crisis. We will continue to support this initiative and ask that this commission prioritize this issue and coordinate with the county on how key essentials such as clean drinking water and further infrastructure can be made available for agricultural worker housing. We hope that LAFCO is able to align their policies with other entities such as Santa Clara County and the Open Space Authority, who have both implemented a framework that includes furthering agricultural worker initiatives as part of their broader sustainability framework. We urge this commission to take the necessary steps to align with other partners on initiatives around agricultural worker housing in order to provide this demographic with the opportunity to access a safe and stable home. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Gloria. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute. You have 3 minutes. The timer will start when you begin speaking. You may begin speaking.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes.
My name is Gloria Ballard. I'm with MH Engineering. It's a civil engineering firm in Morgan Hill. Over time, we have provided engineering to landowners wishing to provide ag housing. Among the issues preventing this type of development is the need to provide potable water. Providing water by wells have different issues with state regulations to deal with. Some lands could provide ag housing by connecting to city water. The problem, if the land is not in the urban service area, most likely will not be allowed to connect to the city water due to LAFCO policies. Currently, I have 2 proposed projects with 30+ units each. If LAFCO policies would allow the connection to city water, I ask that you consider changing this policy to allow this very much needed type of housing to proceed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gloria.
The next speaker is Tim Chiala. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute. And you have 3 minutes. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tim Chiala. I'm one of the owners of George Chiala Farms, based in Morgan Hill. Also third generation Santa Clara County farmer. I'm also the vice president of the Farm Bureau in Santa Clara County. And I want to echo the sentiments that Ms. Gloria Ballard just sent out. There is a willingness by landowners and employers of our very essential farm working families to provide these housing. And the biggest hang up is when it comes to septic and water systems, is the cost associated and the rules circling around that make it almost impossible for us to upgrade some of the existing projects we have and old labor camps we have that are definitely in need. And so I am so excited you guys are bringing this up at LAFCO. We have property very near a lot of urban service areas, and we just never thought it would even be an option. So I applaud everyone on this LAFCO board for looking at an exception to the policies for ag worker housing. And I want to let you know that the Santa Clara County ag community, the farmers, are in full support of this, and we are looking forward to working with these projects in the Santa Clara County ag worker housing work plan. So that is all. Good afternoon and have a great day.
All right, thank you, Tim.
Okay, there are no more speakers, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Recording Secretary. So that'll draw the curtain on agenda item number 2, which was public comments. We're going to roll forward now to agenda item number 3, which is approve the consent calendar. Currently, colleagues, we have agenda items 4, which is approve the minutes. Number 8, executive officers report, and number 9, LAFCO commissioner appointments by city selection committee. Those are already proposed for the consent calendar, and I'll poll my colleagues to see if there are any requests to add or remove items from the consent calendar. I have one to add, which would be agenda item number 7, which is legislative report, and 2 advocacy letters. If my colleagues agree with that, we would end up with 4 items on consent. So seeing some heads nodding up and down and looking for a motion and a second then. Okay, thank you, Commissioner Bell and Vice Chair Arenas with the second. I'm going to scan for any public speakers that want to speak on the consent calendar. And Recording Secretary, do we have anybody on Zoom with their hand raised?
No, there are no speakers at this time, Mr. Chair.
Very good. So I'm going to close the public comment on this. And Recording Secretary, can you give me a roll call vote, please?
Oh, is there one?
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. There's one speaker, Mr. Chair, and that speaker's name is Marty. And then you'll have 3 minutes to speak. And then I'll unmute you right now. Please accept the unmute. The timer will start when you begin speaking. You may begin speaking.
I had my hand raised during the public comments previous to this number one here. I wanted to just say to everybody here in LAFCO that my name is Marty Estrada from Gatas, South, and we're in South County Community Agency for Resource and Services in South County. I'm calling in support of Santa Clara County's agricultural worker housing plan, which is focused on the comprehensive solutions to our farm workers' housing and crisis. Our dedicated farm workers have experienced living in unsafe, unstandard housing throughout Santa Clara County due to barriers to develop farm worker housing. I'm asking LAFCO to prioritize farm workers and to quickly partner with the county on solutions to allow clean water services and the possibility of agricultural working housing. Both Santa Clara County and Open Space Authority have policies in place to ensure agriculture workers' housing is a part of the work plan. But LAFCO is not taking any actions aligned to these policies. I'm urging this LAFCO to work together with policy to finalize prioritizing to our dedicated farm workers. We in South County have seen multiple farm workers living in horrid conditions in makeshift camps in South County. We got 6 or 7 people living in a motel somewhere. Some have nowhere to go, nowhere to sleep. Others are sleeping in their cars. So it's important that LAFCO works together with the county to provide these services to our most precious folks that produce the crops, that farm the crops and put it on your table. This is not a hard ask. We're asking that you just work together on the policies that Supervisor Arenas is part of to make sure that we have equity to farm workers in South County and providing equitable in terms of housing to help them have a place to stay as they're, bringing that food to the tables of here in South and also northern Southern California. We really need your support in this. This is what we need to do to work together with LAFCO to make sure that we secure farm worker housing and bring equity to that process. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Estrada. We're going to pull our attention back to the consent calendar, and Recording Secretary, can you please do a roll call vote?
Yes. Commissioner Arenas?
Yes.
Commissioner Bell? Yes. Commissioner Kame?
Yes.
Commissioner Kishimoto?
Yes.
Commissioner Lee?
Aye.
Commissioner Trumbull?
Aye.
And then Chairperson Melton? Okay. We have 7 unanimous.
Okay, motion carries. Let's move forward. We're going to move into our public hearings. Next agenda item is item number 5. This is proposed work plan and budget for fiscal year 2025. Recommended actions are adopt the proposed work plan, adopt the proposed budget, find that the proposed budget is expected to be adequate, and then authorize staff to transmit the proposed budget adopted by the commission to our agencies. Do we have a staff report?
Yes, Chair. I have a brief report. LAFCO's Finance Committee, composed of Chair Melton, Commissioner Bell, and alternate Commissioner Chapman, met on March 22nd to discuss and formulate the proposed work plan and budget recommendations for fiscal year 2025. The proposed work plan is included in Attachment C and is similar to this year's framework and includes 6 overarching areas of work: LAFCO application processing, island annexations, outreach, customer service and government or community relations, service reviews, special studies and sphere of influence updates, commission support, administrative projects. The proposed budget is included in Attachment D. It reflects the committee's commitment to ensuring ample resources for LAFCO to fulfill its statutory obligations and execute its work plan, at the same time keeping costs in check for LAFCO's funding agencies. One thing to note is that the proposed expenditures are slightly lower than the current year's budgeted expenses, but the proposed proposed net operating expenses stand approximately 20% higher than the current year's budgeted net expenditures. And this disparity is primarily because the projected fund balance at the end of the current fiscal year is comparatively smaller than the substantial balances we've had in the past 2 years, which was basically coming from staff salary savings. So for transparency and convenience, the estimated costs to agencies are detailed in attachment E. And lastly, before I conclude, I'd like to sincerely thank the Finance Committee members for their time and thoughtful consideration throughout the budget and work plan development process. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much, staff, for that presentation. I'll just jump in where Neelima left off. I really appreciate working with Commissioner Bell and alternate Commissioner Chapman on the Finance Subcommittee to get the proposed budget and work plan to where we are right now. Let's see if we have any questions from the commissioners. I'm going to do a visual scan for microphones turned on as an indication to speak. And Vice Chair, did you have any? Thank you very much, Vice Chair.
Thank you. So I'm looking at page 7 of 8, which is administrative projects. You have staff training and development, and the type of activities that are included in that could be workshops, conferences, and relevant courses. But I see the status is only to register to Clara LAFCO workshop in April. Can you please expand on the kind of approach and work plan you'll have for training and development for this year?
Yes, we do have a very detailed work plan for staff training and development. And particularly, this was at the request of the Commission. We have a detailed work plan mainly for training the new LAFCO clerk, as well as the new associate analyst. And it's not included in here, but we do have a very detailed work plan, and we're working on that training. And the training does include, in addition to the Cal LAFCO workshop, we include various different classes, training sessions that the county offers, some required training as well as some other training that is relevant to the LAFCO work.
Okay, I do see that there's a recruitment, hiring, and training of LAFCO staff, and under that activity is the training of the new LAFCO clerk, recruitment and hiring. So I'll make a motion to approve the work plan and then ask to have, as a follow-up, the detailed work plan for staff training and development. That expands beyond just the Cal LAFCO workshop. Thank you. And then I have another addition that I'd like to make, and that is for LAFCO staff to work with county administration on the alignment of policies for agricultural worker housing. So the county administration already has direction to work with LAFCO. We have a whole work plan for I know Supervisor Lee is smiling big because he has heard about this work plan many, many times. And actually we've done some, there's been some really wonderful progress. Speaker of the House Rivas, we're expanding on his bill, which is a statewide but an opt-in for certain counties. And to this date, I think there's only 3 counties, Monterey, San Mateo, and ourselves, for to densify agricultural worker housing and to streamline it. As you heard from many of the speakers today, 2 of the main issues, as you already know, as you've sat on this commission longer than I have, the issues are around water and sewage. And so because there's issues with that, we know that there's very deplorable conditions for agricultural worker housing currently, and we need to figure out solutions, especially on the knowing what has happened in Monterey, which has kind of pulled the curtain back on the conditions that many of the people who work really hard to bring fruit and food to our tables. So I'd like to add that to the work plan, and I'll leave it up to staff to figure out what project area that can go into, whether it's LAFCO applications or the administrative projects. But as long as it just gets some level of priority so that we can get the work going between the county and LAFCO. So that's.
Great. Absolutely. Thank you, Vice Chair. We're going to continue to scan for questions or comments of staff from the commissioners, but I did hear a motion in a second, so we'll hold that for just a minute or two. And Commissioner Kishimoto.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, my quick question is on, on page 3 of 8 is it's noted the countywide water and wastewater service review, which is related maybe to this question. So I know staff can't work on all the service review topics at the same time. We're just finishing up fire. But I guess my question is, when does staff see that coming forward?
Staff is completing work on the implementation of the countywide fire service review, and we are working on the comprehensive review and update of LAFCO policies. We anticipate this will become more prioritized when LAFCO has completed, when we've completed a little bit more work on the policies so that we can take on a new project.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Lee.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Follow up the comments of our Vice Chair Arenas regarding the farm worker housing issue that we talked about. Since the county itself has already done so much work on it, I'm just wondering how much work do you foresee to take on this for LAFCO streamlining? Number one. Number two is, of course, the idea here is I don't expect us to have to reinvent the wheel to start over, but to adopt a lot of the things that's been done so that this could actually move forward fairly quickly, and that our role is to enhance the ability for that to happen sooner than being a roadblock of creating more rules to make it difficult for that to be implemented. So I just want to throw that out. Nima, if you could comment on that, please. Thank you.
I'll try. My understanding is that the county's work on the ag worker housing is very broad, and what I foresee for LAFCO is more narrow. We don't have permitting authority, we don't have land use authority, so we don't have that kind of ability to work on those kinds of things under LAFCO. There are, I think what I heard is more in terms of policy work, and we are currently in the process of a comprehensive review and update of our policies. And if the commission believes that's where we should be working on this, that's what we can do.
I'll take the opportunity to jump in, Commissioner Lee, because I really appreciate the county's leadership on this topic. Vice Chair Arenas' leadership on this topic, and the Vice Chair made me aware of the most recent staff report from Sylvia Gallegos here at the county to the Board of Supervisors, and I thought that was a very well written. For me, it was easy to understand what sort of the plan is for the county to move forward. I'll just jump in and say I think that this is an important topic, and there are steps moving forward from the county where I feel the predominance of the action coming up is, but I want to be ready at Santa Clara LAFCO when the roads converge on the topic that everybody is ready to move forward. So thank you for letting me jump in with that. And then I'll turn it over to Commissioner Bell.
Yeah, the Water District, we have an agricultural advisory board, and lately they've been very interested in the water rates, of course, how much we charge them for water. So that's the normal discussion, but lately the issue of farm worker housing came up, and the reason it came up is because of legislation that passed last year regarding water district actively get involved in housing issues, homeless housing, other kinds of housing. So as it turns out, the water district has some surplus properties around the county that may be able to be used for housing, including some in South County. And the Ag Committee has discussed, well, farm worker housing and what's the story there. And I think they're interested in the county's plan, and they appreciate the initiative by the supervisor. Haven't been there for a while. That's good. New initiative. Thank you very much. The Water District can get involved in the issue by donating land, which we have. We have land that is not within urban service areas, but is in agricultural areas. We get involved in supporting grants and funding from the state. And the state has, they have a program called the Joe Cerna Farm Worker Housing Program. Joe Cerna was a county supervisor in Sacramento County and advocated farm worker housing. His son, Phil, is actually one of your colleagues. He's in Sacramento County Supervisor, Phil Cerna. And Phil testified in favor of the housing bond a few years ago that was passed that dedicated $300 million for the Joe Cerna housing program. So there are resources in the State Department of Housing and Community Development for housing and farm workers housing. Robert Rivas was involved in this also in supporting it. When he first became a member of the State Assembly, I think the first meeting I had with Robert Rivas was to talk about this issue. So Robert is very excited. He actually lived in farm worker housing, as have I. I worked in the fields for 10 years to pay my way through school. That's what I did, in high school and college. During the summers, I go out and I pay my tuition and housing expenses by working in the fields and the Central Valley mainly. But I think that the county initiative should be, we should find out more about it. We should try to support it. The cities should support it. And I know the water district's interested as well. So, and we have a meeting Monday afternoon. The Ag Committee meets, and the vice chair spoke earlier. That's what clued me in. The vice chair was one of the speakers earlier at the meeting. So there's some synergy that seems to be happening here. Let's take advantage of it.
Right on.
It's a very important issue to get worked out, so we remove the barriers. And thank you, Supervisor Arenas, for taking charge, and the other supervisors. Let's all get behind them and give them some support.
Thank you very much for that, Commissioner Bell. Really appreciate that. We're going to turn now to alternate Commissioner Turner. What's on your mind?
Thank you, Chair Melton. It's a little bit more difficult to hear down at this end, so I wasn't real clear on what the motion was and what exactly is LAFCO's role in this effort. And secondly, we're talking about county lands. Is that correct?
Yeah. Were you directing that to the chair or back over to Commissioner Bell?
Whoever would like to answer it. I think I'd go, Chair, to you, and then you can kind of direct where the answer might come from.
Yes. So I'll take a shot at this. So there's a motion on the floor, which we're going to come back to after we do the public comment. The motion on the floor, as I heard it, was approve the budget and the work plan with some modifications. Modification number one that I heard was request for staff, direction for staff to come back with expansion on the professional development item, more details on what will be happening there, and then also a modification to add in an appropriate place of the work plan something to tackle agricultural worker policy here at Santa Clara LAFCO. And I want to make sure that I captured from the vice chair that as accurately as I could, so I appreciate that. And then, as I was saying a minute ago or so, there is a staff report from the county administration to the Board of Supervisors that, to me, spelled out very clearly where the county is in moving forward on Supervisor Arenas' project for agricultural worker housing. I join colleagues in stating I feel that this is a really important topic. So the county is going to be moving forward, and the way I vision it is that at the appropriate time, when or if a proposal comes forward from the county, that I would like to see Santa Clara LAFCO ready from both, a workflow standpoint and from a policy standpoint to be receptive and able to tackle what comes in from the county.
Got it. Okay,
So,
very good. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much for all of that. Seeing no further questions from my colleagues, we're going to go ahead and open a public hearing. I'm just doing a scan to see if I have any speaker cards, and I do not see any, so I'm going to look at the recording secretary now to tell us if we have any raised hands on Zoom.
No, Mr. Chair, there are no speakers on this item.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing, see if there's any final discussion on this. Otherwise, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Staff, did you capture who the second was from or some? Okay, so that was from Commissioner Kamei. I appreciate that. Seeing no further comment, then looks like we're ready for a vote. Sonia.
Okay. Commissioner Arenas?
Yes.
Commissioner Bell? Commissioner Kamei?
Yes.
Commissioner Kishimoto?
Yes.
Commissioner Lee?
Aye.
Commissioner Trumbull?
Yes.
And Chairperson Melton.
Yes.
Great. We have 7 in support, none opposed.
Okay, very good. Motion carries, and we're going to go ahead and roll forward into agenda item 6. This is implementation of recommendations from LAFCO's countywide fire service review. Recommended action, accept report and provide direction as necessary. Do we have a staff report?
We do. LAFCO's countywide service review contains over 100 recommendations to enhance fire service delivery and response capabilities in the county, and to address 27 geographic areas in the county that lack an identified local fire service provider. Following the Commission's direction in late December, we compiled the recommendations and we reached out to the relevant agencies and organizations to solicit their feedback on these recommendations. We asked them to outline their implementation plans or to explain any decisions not to proceed with specific recommendations. Despite issuing reminders, the rate of response was slower than anticipated, with many not responding by the mid-February deadline. To address this, we made additional and direct contacts with these agencies to encourage a timelier response. The feedback that we received varied significantly in terms of the detail and the clarity, and this led us to engage further with them on discussions with some particular agencies so that we can better understand their positions. Notably, we have yet to receive any feedback from the City of Santa Clara, and the response from the City of Gilroy lacks substantive detail. From the responses we gathered, it was very encouraging to learn that many of the agencies are going to be implementing the recommendations or have already implemented them, or they're in process, or they're slated to be implemented in the future, while others are more dependent on the level of interest and the availability of funding, and some will be analyzed and evaluated further for feasibility. Some agencies have decided against implementing certain recommendations, and they've provided their rationale. We are in the process of seeking additional clarification from the Fire Chiefs Association on their response to 2 recommendations, and from the South County Fire on their response to 1 recommendation. Moving forward, we will work with the interested agencies to help facilitate any boundary changes needed to implement the recommendations for 18 or so of the identified geographic areas that are located outside of a local fire service provider. We plan to begin those discussions very soon, and we would keep the Commission informed on our progress. We want to thank the agencies and organizations that have participated in the service review and responded to our request for all their time and assistance. This concludes our very brief update on our efforts to implement the recommendations of LAFCO's countywide fire service review. And of course, we're happy to address any questions that the commission may have at this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that staff report. And before we get to commission comments or questions, I'd like to go ahead and open the public hearing and take some comments from our members of the public. I have 6 speaker cards. So what I'd like to do is read off 2 names. The first person will come to the lectern and provide your public comment. We're looking forward to hearing what you have to say. And then the second name that I read, if you can just be ready and stand by to come up next. So the first speaker card I have is from Ava Miranda, and then that person is followed by Charles Aung. Welcome to LAFCO.
Honorable Chair, Commissioners. I sent a letter, it's in attachment E, addressing my concerns about the decision or recommendation to dissolve the Saratoga Fire District. While services have been outsourced from Saratoga's fire department to Santa Clara County Fire Department, I would encourage you to see that Saratoga Fire Department is still doing very important work, particularly in the wildlife urban interface zone and in high fire hazard zone, of which Saratoga, over half of our land are in those designated zones. These are areas that Santa Clara County Fire Department has told us they don't have staff, they don't have the time, and they cannot prioritize these or look at these. This is a particular concern to those of us who live in these high fire zones. As you know, insurers are leaving, and some of them are not providing insurance anymore, or they are doubling, dramatically increasing the rates. So I'd like to, in your purview, which you have a state mandate to guide urban development patterns, to look out for the public interest, to ameliorate the challenges, sustain the quality of life, I'd like to bring your attention to fire. If you look at the deadliest fires in recorded U.S. history, 4 of them are in California, and 3 of them have been since 2017. So the problem is getting worse, it's not getting better. I would ask you to not only reject the recommendation to dissolve the Saratoga Fire District, which is, by the way, an elected body. We, as Saratoga residents, elect them to represent us. But I would also ask you to consider helping Saratoga Fire District by looking at fire service issues in all of the wildlife urban interface zones and high fire hazard zones in Santa Clara County, because it's not just in Saratoga that we have these zones. I would like a review and adoption of best practices that have been learned from prior big fires here in California. Oakland fire, Santa Rosa fire, we have a lot of information that's been learned. Over 161 lives have been lost, so we've learned these lessons at a very high cost. I would like to have you think about the development that's happening and that has been mandated by the state to include urban interface wildlife zones and high fire hazard zones, and put a hold on that until we can take a look at, do we have sufficient water services that can service both mapped and working fire hydrants in those areas? Have we mapped emergency response roads that can handle both emergency response vehicles and evacuations simultaneously?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Charles Aung, and that individual is followed by Ernest Crowell.
My name is Charles Ehring. I'm a resident of Mendelssohn Lane. I only have one point to make. I think all of us were stunned with the recent Lahaina fire. And our street represents certainly an evacuation street for people fleeing fires. We thought it was reasonable to consider signing evacuation routes so people could get away from the fire, and approached the county, who sent us a one-line rebuttal. And we have found a sympathetic ear with the Saratoga Fire District, who's going to pursue what seems to be a very reasonable thing in this era of fires. And I ask that you continue supporting the existence of the Saratoga Fire District. The county fire district seems to be too big to worry about such minor problems. And we as residents of Saratoga, not in the woods, but in Saratoga, are concerned. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ehring. Our next speaker is Ernest Crowell, and that individual is followed by Daniel Miranda. Welcome.
Good afternoon. My name is Ernest Crowell. I'm a retired fire chief, Saratoga Fire District. I served 2 terms as president of the Santa Clara County Fire Chiefs Association during my fire chief's experience. And I'd like to take a few minutes just to thank all of you for all your efforts over these last several months, coordinating and putting these meetings together, and all the staff putting all the paperwork together, so thank you. I'd like to point out again that the Saratoga Fire District is an independent fire district, was organized under the Health and Safety Code. We're going to have our 100th anniversary this year at the fire station. The fire department's been very active in the community over the years. The district has developed water standards when they were early on developments in Saratoga, so 100,000 gallons a minute was established. And we have the right to do this. We have the mechanism within the code to develop codes. We also developed a 14-foot driveway where county uses a 12-foot, definitely in the hillsides. We worked and developed and worked with the city on a Class A roof for the entire city of Saratoga. We developed an early warning alarm system, which we have over 1,000 customers that are signed up, which was part of the district's progress to reach out and protect fires. We have had an election for a new fire station several years ago, and we had an 88% yes vote to build a building. This is in Saratoga on Saratoga Avenue and Big Basin Way, if you know where that is. And I would like to say to you that the district would like to maintain its presence. It definitely wants to continue on helping develop the hillside area. We're going out with an RFP right now to look at the hazardous fire area and also the evacuation routes, water, and what have you. So we're reaching out to a firm to give us some feedback so we can develop some plans. And we also, during our existence, we merged with Santa Clara County in the fact of supplying fire equipment and manpower. So that was a suggestion from LAFCO. So we went ahead and did that 16 years ago, which has been a good working relationship. The district board still maintains the oversight of their development and response. And so I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
If you have any questions, I'll be staying after.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Daniel Miranda, and that individual is followed by Peter Ruti.
Good afternoon. Thanks for the opportunity to speak with you today. I'm going to be a little more direct, I think, and I want to share the residents' perspective because I know you're going through a lot of criteria that you're getting from other agencies, but I think you know, government's #1 job is the safety and security of the people, the residents. And so I'm glad some other of my neighbors have spoken today, and I want to share my example. I live in the highest fire district. You know, you've seen the map already. About a year ago, a neighbor put a note in my mailbox, said they're putting in chokers or speed bumps down the street, and I think it's a problem because we live near Villa Montalvo. They have concerts, pretty big venue. Sometimes over 1,000 people have to get out. There's only one road to get out. It's Mendelssohn Lane. Okay, so I went to the TSC meeting, and said, how come nobody here is from fire, county fire, to review these plans? They have a spreadsheet of how they make decisions. County fire's not on there. Saratoga fire's not on there. I said, that's a problem. They said, it's not a problem. We don't need them. We don't have to do it. They passed it. Okay, so then there was an appeal filed in front of the city council, and that passed. The appeal did not go through. It was a 3-2 vote. So I went deeper into it looking myself. They did get a permit from Saratoga Fire, but it says approved with the following conditions. The following conditions is alphabet soup. But I Googled the alphabet soup, and what you come up with is a county requirement that says speed bumps tables should not be installed along primary emergency response routes as determined by Sarah County Fire. So I want this enforced. There's no enforcement. That's the problem. You need to focus on that. Secondly, there's the Santa Clara County speed hump policy. This stuff already exists, but we're not adhering to it. And it says not on emergency response routes. And it also says 100% of the residents within 100 feet of the proposed speed hump have to approve it. That's not the case. You'll hear from more people today who live right in front. I sent a letter to James Lindsay, the city manager of Saratoga, detailing this, much more detail than I have in a minute today. He came back with a one-liner. County fire plan clearly states the plan was approved in all caps. But he doesn't go on to say with these conditions that he didn't bother to look up, but I Googled. So I wrote to the mayor. Same thing. I said, well, actually, the Saratoga Fire District wrote a letter saying, please put it on hold. We're doing a study. The mayor came back and said, the city relies on California, on the county fire's work for approval, and they serve Saratoga.
Thank you.
So,
thank you. Thank you very much.
The
Mr.
bottom line
Miranda.
is enforcement
Thank
of
you
the
very
codes that we
much,
already
Mr.
have.
Miranda.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, our next speaker is Peter Rudy, and that individual is followed by Mark Hines.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Peter Rudy. I've been an occupant on Mendelssohn Lane for about 38 years, and there's never been a problem with a death that we're aware of, or any major traffic accidents. And they're in the process of putting speed bumps on our street, which is, in my opinion, a major exit for a prime big fire in that area. It includes at least 8 streets that empty onto Saratoga to Mendelssohn, which was Highway 9 in 1940s. Now it's a private road. They're putting speed bumps, and they've begun the process of putting speed bumps on there, which I'm a physician, so I've looked up things about speed bumps, coronary artery disease, deaths, the increased number of deaths according to difficulty getting your EMT down to pick up somebody. Very significant. And I got a letter from the Saratoga County Fire Department that says your property is in a very high fire hazard severity zone of the wildland urban interface area. But yet they approved putting speed bumps up on our street where we are going to have difficulty getting out for a fire. I mean, everybody remembers Lahaina. I have a friend that was in Lahaina trying to get out. It was not fun. And I think that they need to keep Saratoga Fire Department here and not be dissolved and sent into the county fire. And that's my opinion. And anyway, thanks, I'm done.
Okay, thank you very much. And then the final in-person speaker card I have is Mark Hines.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm the District Counsel for the Saratoga Fire District. I would simply like to underscore what President Crowell remarked. He is the chair of the Board of Fire Commissioners. The Fire District doesn't agree with the staff recommendation for reorganization. We invite your attention again to our letters of February 6, 2024 and July 21st, 2023. The district is currently in the process of sending out requests for proposals for traffic consultants to develop emergency access routes and evacuation routes in the area adjacent to the wildland-urban interface. This is something that the county fire district was not able or willing to do. So we understand from the staff report that if there's no further direction to staff to proceed with the dissolution, that things will remain as they are, and we encourage that inaction. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. And now we're going to check in to see if we have any remote public comment on this item via Zoom. I'm going to look at the recording secretary, and can you tell me if we have anybody online to speak?
Yes, we do have one speaker, Mark Weisler. And I will give you 3 minutes and accept the unmute. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Good afternoon. My name is Mark Weisler. I live off of Mendelssohn, and I'm in favor of keeping this fire commission, fire district as we have it. I very much like the fact that these are locally elected commissioners so that we voters know whom we are putting in office, and we can select and elect excellent people like Mr. Crowell. He has cited some of the contributions that the commission has made over the years, and I'm sure that that's just a fraction of the contributions that have been made over the many decades. So I very much hope that we can keep this commission. I feel that they are in the best position to look into the risks of fire and the ancillary considerations like evacuation in the event of fire, and figure out the best emergency routes for our city. So I hope you'll help keep that commission going. Thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you very much. Are there any further speakers, Sonia, for online public comment?
There are no more speakers, Mr. Chair.
Great. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and close the public hearing on this, and I'm going to bring it back to the discussion, see if we have any questions, direction that we would like to provide to staff or for a motion. And I'm just going to scan to see if we have any raised hands on this. We'll start with Alternate Commissioner Turner.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to be clear on the recommendation. The recommendations are merely that, correct? I mean, it's not, I mean, I think there's some concern about the Saratoga Fire District dissolving, if I'm hearing them right, or that there's, but it's merely a recommendation, right? It's not, we're not making the decision for anyone, correct?
I'm glad you brought this up, Alternate Commissioner Turner, and maybe I'll invite staff to jump in and just refresh everybody on what the recommendation or outcome with regards to Saratoga Fire District was in the service review, and any other questions that the Commissioner had.
There was a recommendation that noted that there were alternatives to Saratoga Fire District in terms of its governance, and this was not a new recommendation. This has been recommended in prior countywide fire service reviews, and we've actually studied this recommendation as a commission and found that there would be savings through that process. At the time, the commission decided that they did not want to move forward with any kind of dissolution process. This is the third time we've done our countywide service review, and it's been the recommendation one more time that there are alternatives. We did reach out to both the district both districts, Saratoga Fire District, which, as you heard, they're not in support of that kind of change. And we heard from Countywide Fire District that they would continue with the current contract arrangement. And so there is a recommendation in a sense in the report, but we've heard from both, both districts. And we're not recommending that as staff, that there be a dissolution. So I
Okay.
hope that clarifies.
No, no, it
things.
does very much. I just want to make sure that the folks that are here understand that, again, we're not the deciding body. We make a recommendation, and typically then it's up to those other agencies to decide how they want to move forward. Is that correct?
It's not completely correct. We could initiate a dissolution as LAFCO.
Got it.
And like I said, we did look into this in kind of after we did our second countywide service review and did a special study, looked at the process, figured out what the savings would be, and at the time, the commission decided they would not move forward with initiating any dissolution.
Got it. Okay. Just want to make sure that's clear. The other was, so with regard to the speed bumps and the concerns that they have, does LAFCO have any role there in order to make a recommendation about removing or doing something differently?
I don't believe we have any authority to do that. It sounds like that's a county issue and the two districts issue, city and.
Okay, so that would have to be taken up probably at a Saratoga City Council meeting and other bodies.
Other
Okay.
bodies.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much. Let's see if we have any other questions. I'm going to start with Vice Chair Arenas and then Commissioner Kishimoto.
I have a question similar to Mayor Turner asked, and that's about how the recommendations should be taken by each of the cities, because I noticed that Gilroy's qualified their response by saying that they will determine and establish a performance goal, and based on, I think, whether they have the funding and the priority. And so I think they disagreed with a number of recommendations. I think it was like 3 or so. How does that play out? And how does that impact them in the future?
I guess I didn't interpret their response as disagreeing. They really said that they would be the ones determining that, and we followed up to ask them, to ask their council for a position on any of these recommendations, and their response was, that is our response. So I'm not necessarily interpreting it as something they won't do. I'm hopeful that they may take this up and look at this and pursue some of these recommendations in the future. In terms of how, I guess you were asking how we look at that, or how
does it impact any future applications or any, because this is happening now in these recommendations. You're saying they're not disagreeing, but what they're saying is, and this is, I'm reading from their letter, there is valuable information in the study. However, the recommendations staff received were based on opinions and findings of the consultant hired by LAFCO. So the City of Gilroy submitted many comments on the findings and recommendations, some of which the study addressed and others did not. And so then, of course, then they follow and say it's financial and policy responsibility of the City of Gilroy. And so they didn't provide a response to 3 items. So how will that impact future applications or future interactions with LAFCO?
I think what I would say is service review process is really supposed to be a friendly process where we're making, we have an independent consultant looking at issues and making some recommendations. Many times agencies will disagree. I wouldn't say that necessarily impacts how the commission looks at things. I mean, when we get an application, we would be asking, we're required to look at their service plan and understand how they're addressing, if there are any issues, how they plan to address those. So I guess I see this as a friendly process at hand, and We do have a policy where I think we try to not support things that are in conflict with the service review. But again, I think this is a friendly process, and when an application comes, we have to look at, where they are at that time and place. And some things may have changed, for the better, and some things may have not changed, and we may still have concerns. So I hope that answers your question, Vice Chair Arenas.
Sure. I think as much as yes. Thank you. That'll suffice for now.
Great, thank you. I had next up Commissioner Kishimoto.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so I had the pleasure of chairing the TAC, which was a really great group. And again, I think the staff report, staff did a tremendous job on this and came up with a number of important recommendations. But so when I was reading through this, so obviously each recommendation is LAFCO is not a enforcing or organization, and we don't fund the solutions to any of these. It is up to each agency, and so things like the CAD to CAD standardization is important, but yeah, it'll be a lot of hard discussions ahead for the county and the fire agencies, and then the Fire Safe Council, the Santa Clara County Fire Safe Council, plays a huge role in kind of expectations, and they did come back and say, well, they will need funding to do the coordination so part of it will be up to the county. So I'm kind of looking at the two county supervisors here on with us. But so and then I also did go back and look at the August. This was after our TAC meetings dissolved, but the August 23rd, they came up with a new CWPP, Community Wildlife Protection Plan, I believe. And it actually is an excellent plan. So I would really urge everyone to take a look at it, and it includes everything including evacuation routes and water sources. I mean, all the things that need to come together to make it work. And so no one agency, unfortunately, controls everything. That's the problem. But so the Fire Safe Council does play an important role, and I was thinking at some point it would be great if there's interest on the Board of Supervisors' part, if there's a joint presentation by the LAFCO and the Fire Safe Council to the Board of Supervisors, because I know fire might not be the top of your agenda, because I know you have such a busy agenda, but it is, of course, so important to stay on top of it and be ready for it. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Next up, we'll hear from Commissioner Lee and then from Commissioner Kamei.
Thank you, Chair. So just reiterating the point, thanks, Dunia, for explaining the history of these recommendations, that this is basically an old recommendation regarding the SFD issue. And also made clear by various questions and answers that this body really has no power or jurisdiction in terms of making these recommendations happen. It's just recommendations. At the end of the day, the individual group would have to then vote to adopt these recommendations, because there's my funding considerations. For example, in the Saratoga Fire Department, Fire District issue is concerned, unless the commissioners of the Saratoga Fire District actually vote to dissolve it, it will not be dissolved just by having these recommendations sitting around, correct?
I guess for clarity, LAFCO does have the authority to dissolve a district, including the Saratoga Fire District. LAFCO could initiate that process without the support of the district if they wanted to. But as I said, this body or prior group of commissioners has looked at this issue and analyzed it, found that there were savings what the process would be, but at the time, the commission felt like the status quo was appropriate. And so, but as you heard in this most recent review, once again, there was a recommendation saying that there are all alternatives to the district and that, you know, that should be looked at. And you heard that there wasn't support for that amongst the districts.
Okay, so for that matter, if somebody would want to do that, they would have to agendize this in the future meeting. Somebody make a motion and
Correct.
second it, and with majority of this, technically, that could happen.
Correct.
Right now, I would say there's zero appetite for doing this, at least for me, or many of our fellow commissioners here, sounds like, so I don't think there's something that the Saratoga Fire District, or folks living in Saratoga should have to worry about, at least at this juncture.
Correct.
Right. Okay, just want to make that very clear. Number one. Number two is, on the issue of the speed bumps, we mentioned that this is something that the city of Saratoga installed, so it becomes a city issue, right? When the resident wrote to the city, they just say kind of like, oh, we got a permission from county fire and we're good to go. Well, the letter and the county fire, if you look at the sub paragraph, whatever, it really says that, hey, you got to follow A, B, C, and D. It doesn't seem like the city has followed those standards. So that becomes the issue, is like, well, who's enforcing to make sure that is being, that sounds like should be the county fire or somebody in county council's office looking at that. Am I correct there? I'm trying to figure out the chain of command in terms of who would do what.
I guess it depends on whose jurisdiction this is in and whose, you know, policies or ordinances they're following.
So I really don't want our residents to be kind of thrown, hey, you go left and they tell go right and they basically get nothing. What I'm going to ask Nanima, if we can, maybe summarize the comments we received from our residents, forward that to the county council's office, Tony LaPresley's office, and let him take a look at it, if there's something that the county should do or the county fire should do, and have him report back either to you or even to the board. If something that the board of supervisors needs to do, there's at least two of us here, no Brown Act yet, but at least we could then jump on it if there's something that we could do to how to assist dealing with this issue, one way or the other, just to get to the bottom of it once and for all. If I can, that'd be great. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Lee. Next up is Commissioner Kamei and then Commissioner Bell.
You want to speak on this one?
No, I got it. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for the report. You know, fire is one of those things that you hope you never see it. And when something happens, you want to make sure that you're prepared. So I appreciate all of the work that's being done to really keep our residents safe. I was a little bit surprised that the city of Santa Clara gave no response. And I was just curious in terms of, I mean, everybody's busy. But I was just curious in terms of when there's no response, like what happens? You know, is there any acknowledgement? Should we send a letter to the city council to say, hey, just to let you know, there was no response? Because it just seems a little bit sort of unusual. And I don't know, maybe this is just the way it is, but that there would be nothing.
It's a mystery to us.
Is it, I mean, has this happened before? Is it usual?
I feel like this is unusual from our experience, and we reached out to several people. You know, I've made a lot of calls, explained to them, you're going to be the only city that hasn't responded.
Can we send a letter to the mayor and say, this is a concern, why is there not a response? I mean, something, because the fact is that if they're so busy that they can't even acknowledge or respond or say anything, I find it highly unusual on such an important topic. Because if fire comes, you want to make sure that, you're kind of like dotting your I's and crossing the T's. So I find it unusual. I think that they should know. So maybe, the city manager, I don't know who it is, and they're busy and everybody's busy. And
They've had some
but at the
staff
same
changes.
time, then the policymakers should know.
We can do that.
Yeah,
We
I
can
mean,
definitely do
I
that.
just think that that's not okay. And certainly, you know, it's for the benefit of the community. And so when we're looking at, you know, really ensuring that there's acknowledgement that the work was done by the LAFCO staff and that, you know, they at least, you know, acknowledge. So.
Yeah, this was highly unusual. Their fire chief was on the technical advisory committee. I reached out to him. He said that he had reached out to the city manager, that I should expect a
saw that.
response.
I saw that
I
email.
followed up.
Yeah.
It
well.
just didn't get a response, but.
Well,
But we
maybe
can-
expressing the concern that, you know, they should at least acknowledge something. So if that could be possible, that would be very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Kamei. And before we get to Commissioner Bell, I think the forthcoming motion that is starting to formulate, Part A is accept the report, and then Part B is provide direction to staff. And it may very well be part of the motion to say, LAFCO send a letter to the mayor of Santa Clara or something. We'll have an opportunity very soon to provide direction to staff in the form of a motion. So I appreciate that. And then next up is Commissioner Bell.
Oh, thank you very much. It's kind of a personal thing with me, file service review, because when I was 14, our house burned down, and 12 of us were homeless, and so it's very important that we have widespread community support for improving our fire services, and I think we have a kind of a doing this. I'm very proud to be involved in this, very, very proud, because fire service needs to be improved. Climate change, the mountains around us, safety has to be a priority. I want to say I thank you all for participating, including the Saratoga Fire Department. The chief has been the chief for a long time and retired. He was the chief when I was on the County Board of Supervisors, and I know there's little intangibles when you have a department like that have to be considered when you look at the fire department. I'm just saying that it's very important to go find out the value that people have in the fire department and look at why they think it's valuable. That's important. In my case with the City of San Jose Fire Department, who did a wonderful job in putting out the fire in our house when I was 14, and my 9-month-old sister got out safely because of them. I think it was beyond that. The intangibles are things like finding places for us to live. Finding a place for us to live. Where are we going to go that night? Things like that. I mean, finding places, finding clothes, places for, and finding friends in the community that are in the church and other organizations to help the families. And when you look at the service review, those kinds of things those are kind of the intangibles I'm talking about. I just want everybody to realize, coming from my own personal experience, and many of the families in our community helped our family, including the Eichhorn family. I just want to say that. There she is. Her parents helped us. I think my brother stayed at your house for like 3 or 4 nights. And I think it's very important to recognize that. People, we lived in a hotel on Monterey Road for like 3 months. All 12 of us. Okay, so I think intangibles are important, and anything we can do to prevent and look at how people relate to one another regarding fire, and that's very important. So this is just the first overview. When we look at these reports, they're kind of like an overview. service review overview, but then when we deal with it in a more detailed manner, we have to consider some of the intangible type issues when people want to decide about their fire department. It's very, very, very personal. I'll tell you that right now. I mean, I know my mom was talking about it just this weekend. I mean, she was my 97-year-old mother. So she was talking about, the fire and what happened to all her wedding, stuff that she had from her wedding was all burned down, all gone. So losing all that and how important that was. So please, this is a beginning of looking at fire service review. We need to do the best we can in planning to follow up with good plans and good suggestions that we can all agree on. And believe me, preventing fires saves a huge amount of money. I'll tell you that right now. I mean, the cost of fires is huge, and the impact is huge from an economic and a personal standpoint. So anything we do to prevent fires is so important to the community, to people personally. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Bell, for that. I have a couple of things I wanted to chime in on before we get to a motion, if that's okay. I wanted to say something that I've said before, which is my deep gratitude to the TAC, because we can do this fire service review without a TAC, and that would just be the LAFCO hiring a consultant who has a bunch of good ideas and generates a report. But with the TAC, that's the secret sauce, because the TAC pulls in a whole bunch of really smart people from the community, some city managers, some fire chiefs, some other experts, and we're kicking around the thing that ultimately turns into the fire service review with that TAC subcommittee. And Commissioner Kishimoto, you led the TAC from A to Z. We had Susan Vickland Wilson also on the TAC, and then Commissioner Bell, you jumped in right at the very tail end of the TAC. But the quality of the output is so much higher by having such tremendous participation via the TAC in formulating the thing that ultimately is generated. I also wanted to express my gratitude to alternate Commissioner Turner and Commissioner Lee for the discussion about Saratoga Fire District, right? And what is it that is said, or if LAFCO is of a mind ever in the future to commence dissolving the district, and I have zero interest in doing that, but just to have that discussion so everybody understands what the playing field looks like, I think is a very good discussion. And then I had a couple of questions for staff. Dunia, the first thing I wanted to do was circle back on the city of Gilroy. So the city of Gilroy has said what they have said. That's a matter of the public record. And if somebody can help me remember, because the service reviews that we do, that a LAFCO does, can turn into source material if that agency comes forth down the road with a request to do something at the LAFCO. So for example, if a city says, well, we want to expand our urban service area, or we want to do this, or we want to do that, well, one of the things that LAFCO can look at is, well, what were the results of the service review on fire or water or whatever, right? So would it be, just following up on Vice Chair Arenas' question, is it correct to say that the response that we've seen from the city of Gilroy now goes into the record as part of the service review that would be looked back upon if that same city comes forth with a USA amendment or something? That's now part of things that we can consider.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So then this is now more me expressing an opinion rather than asking a question, but I'd be interested in hearing your response. If I was a city, and I guess we've named two of them, one is a neighbor of the city of Sunnyvale, that's the city of Santa Clara, and the other one is Gilroy. couldn't the argument be made that it would behoove the city to engage to the fullest extent possible in providing a response to the service review, knowing that the results of the service review go into the library, so to say, of things that LAFCO can look at on future applications? What do you think about what I just said?
I would say that makes a lot of sense, what you just said.
Okay, all right. So very good, thank you for that. Oh, I remember the final question that I wanted to ask is, we've been doing service reviews for quite some time now. We've prepared service reviews, we've adopted them, we send them out, we get responses back from the affected agencies, and it seems to me the responses that we get probably show up on some sort of bell-shaped curve distribution. There'll be a whole bunch of agencies that say things in the middle, like, yeah, we get what you're saying, but it might be difficult to implement because of budgetary constraints, for example. Then on the positive side, you might have a bunch of agencies, Dunia, that say, yeah, we're totally on board, you got it, we're gonna do it, or it's already done. And then you may have some agencies that say, we disagreed with you in the beginning, we disagreed with you in the middle, and we disagree with you now at the end, right? And I kind of see that bell-shaped curve here in the responses that have come back on this service review. The question is, have you experienced that sort of bell-shaped curve distribution on previous service reviews?
I would say yes. This is pretty typical, the type of responses that we got and how they kind of, like you said, how they distribute themselves on that bell curve.
Okay, okay, very good. That's helpful to know then. So I don't have any more questions. I'm just going to do a scan here to see if we have any final questions. Or Commissioner Lee, do you have a motion on your mind?
Motion,
Yeah, please, go right ahead.
Let me try to give it a try here. I'd like to make a motion to receive accept the LAFCO Countywide Fire Service Review Report, one, and then to add a couple of conditions. One is to continue to I don't want to say harass, but continue to connect, follow up with the Santa Clara City fire to obtain the necessary information to complete our fire service review, information that we needed. Number one. Second thing is to put on hold any recommendation regarding the Saratoga Fire Department's dissolving or closure. If those the two things that we okay, is it clear as a motion? Just to make sure staff's okay with that. If I could get a second on this.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Great. Did you have anything else for your motion?
No, I just think it's good to make clear that we really do need input from all our jurisdiction, and so we'll make it very clear on this motion, number one. Number two, as far as an old recommendation, Dunia is saying this is the third time we're saying it over and over again. Clearly, we don't have community support on this, and then ultimately, I think as Commissioner Bell has mentioned, some things that we don't really look at a lot of times are the local things, right? At the end of the day, on paper, it looks like it'll save money. But when it comes to fire safety, the local knowledge and who knows where the fire, those spots are extremely crucial to have. And for those reasons, I don't think you can put the money into it, the dollar amount to it, number one. The second thing is also important is regarding the fire risk. With climate change, the fire risk has gone up significantly. We've seen these huge fires, and that's one reason we put forth our county this AI sensor. So I've authored to try to put in on various locations within the county to look for hotspots in the future. By the same token, these insurance companies are leaving. When the insurance company doesn't want to take your money, that's scary. Right? So if anything we know is it's not just an insurance company when you worry about, when you find ways to truly eliminate or mitigate these type of risks in the future. So I think that's why it's so important to have that knowledge. So I would say let's not think so much about saving money. Let's make sure that our local folks are involved in this. And if anything, we want to get more of them involved so that we could try to mitigate these risks in the future. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, Commissioner Lee. I'll jump in with a couple of thoughts. I really appreciate the motion. I like the part of the motion where we say, we reiterate the original conclusion of the service review, which is that we're doing nothing with Saratoga Fire District. And I think that's probably a healthy thing to reiterate in the motion so that it's further documented. The second thing is, if you're of a mind to do it, can we, LAFCO, and I can sign the letter as the board chairperson, but can we direct staff to prepare a communication to the mayors of the city of Santa Clara and the city of Gilroy, just with some thoughts about here's cause and here's effect, and just strategizing down the road. Would you be willing to accept that as a friendly
Absolutely.
amendment?
I don't see any issues, just looking at the Neiman amount of any issues on that.
No, we are happy to do that if
Great.
that's.
If you're happy to sign it, then absolutely, I'll support you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. The staff will sharpen their pencils and actually do the writing. I just signed the document. So I feel like we have some good consensus here. I heard a motion and a second from the vice chair. Any further questions or comments on the direction, all of this? And seeing none, I think we're ready for a roll call vote.
Okay. Commissioner Arenas? Yes. Commissioner Bell? Commissioner Kamei? Yes. Commissioner Kishimoto? Yes. Commissioner Lee?
Aye.
Commissioner Trumbull?
Yes.
And then Chairperson Melton.
Yes.
Great. We have 7 in support of, unanimous.
Okay, motion carries unanimously. That brings to a close agenda item 7. Agenda items 8 and 9 were on consent. This pulls us to agenda item 10, commissioner reports. Let's see if the commissioners have anything to report. And Commissioner Lee, what's on your mind?
I did see that on our future agenda, there is a Cal LAFCO meeting coming up, going to be in Yosemite. And actually, it was just there 2 weeks ago with a different conference called Civic Well. And I just wanted to mention that, number one, Yosemite is beautiful this time of year. If you want to go, this is a good time to go because before tourists is there. But more seriously, that was a wonderful conference. I'm learning so many issues relating to the CCA. For those of you who don't know what those are, the Silicon Valley Clean Energy, for example, is a CCA locally that we don't buy electricity from PG&E anymore, and certainly has been able to provide cost-effective and clean energy to our residents. So that was a great conference. But I just wanted to mention that that conference is something I recommend our fellow commissioners to consider joining Civic Well in the future. Number 1 and 2 is about this other conference that Cal LAFCO is going to do in October. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Supervisor Lee. I have one thought for staff, but before I get to that, let me just see if any of the other commissioners have anything to jump in on. And for staff, Nilima, the thing that I'd like to talk about is that we know the County of Santa Clara has this work item underway. It's being headed by Sylvia Gallegos. The topic is agricultural worker housing, and we talked about that a bit earlier in this meeting. I sense that there's a lot of support from the commission behind it, and a sense that we want to be ready when the time comes, however that readiness may manifest itself. And then, for example, at a very recent Board of Supervisor meeting, there was a staff report from Sylvia Gallegos to the Board of Supervisors. So I know something is percolating over there. Would it be possible, Nilima, for upcoming executive officer reports for you to just inform the LAFCO board what's percolating at the county? I'm aware that, we all live under the Brown Act, so you probably wouldn't be looking forward, but just keep the LAFCO board apprised of what's happening at the county with regards to their work plan for agricultural worker housing. What do you think about that, I wonder?
I can certainly provide an update based on the public information that is available from the county on the work that they're doing on ag worker housing.
Okay, thank you. I think that would be very helpful. I appreciate that. Okay, let's keep moving on then. We're going to close agenda item number 10. Next up is agenda item number 11, newspaper articles and newsletters. We had an item provided to us from one of the Gilroy City Council members. And staff, do we have any other newspaper articles?
We don't have any other articles.
All right, we're in the home stretch. We're going to move on to agenda item 12, written correspondence. I do not see any action required on this item, so we're ready for agenda item 13, which is adjournment. And this meeting of Santa Clara LAFCO is adjourned at 2:56 p.m. Our next meeting is June 5th, 2024 at 1:15 p.m. right here in the Board of Supervisors chambers. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.